brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement Studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking host, the good old boys.
Kentucky, the state where I was born and raised. 6 long years.
And now it's sippin' time.
Hello and welcome to Sips, Suds, and Smokes. This is good old boy Mike, and we have a sip segment today. Joining me for this discussion is going to be a new host that's going to be joining us, good old boy Jason. He is the producer of Cumberland Cask and a whiskey enthusiast.
Good to be here.
Great. And also joining us is one of our recurring hosts, and I'm so glad she's getting to join us, is good old gal Julieanna.
Hi, everyone.
This sip segment today is going to be a debrief discussion out of a whiskey festival that was held here in Nashville, and we're going to get to talk about everything at the festival, the products we enjoyed. There were several events at the festival itself, and should be a really great discussion, not only about the festival itself, but a lot of the products. So looking forward to this, and you know, we really enjoy talking about a lot of things here on Sips, Suds, and Smokes, where everything good in life is worth discussing. Our sip segments are all about a wide variety of things, such as distilled spirits, what we're talking about today, and in particular whiskey and bourbon. We also talk about wine, tea, coffee, and a bunch of other things on our sip segments. So if we're not talking about what you love to hear about today, definitely pick up another episode on one of those other topics. Today we're actually going to be talking about things that we tasted at the festival, and we'll be rating these according to our SIPS ratings here on Sips, Suds, and Smokes, and I'll go through those with you right now if you've not heard them lately. Number 1 is give me a glass of water to wash out my mouth.
Water. Bring water. Bring water.
Number 2 is nice, but what else do you have?
Well, isn't that nice?
Number 3 is, interesting. What was that again?
Interesting.
I found myself saying that quite a bit at the festival. Number 4 is, I'm sorry, it's not, it's, let's keep this a secret to ourselves. Pour me another.
That's classified.
And number 5 on our SIPS rating is, oh my, I was unaware anything could be this good.
Oh my goodness! Yes! 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 Yes!
Not a sound that I found myself making at the festival itself. So, really great to have everyone here for this discussion. And Julieanna and I were fortunate to go to the grand tasting together, and she was able to go to another one of the events this week, which is the antique tasting, and we'll talk about both of those in a minute. Jason wasn't able to attend the festival, but knows these products intimately, and more importantly, knows a lot of the history behind a lot of these products that we tasted as well. So, we talked a little bit about the festival itself, and we go to these things all the time. And this is one of the few shows that we actually sat down and captured, our thoughts the very next day. I'm still in recovery because
Ditto.
It was the grand tasting was 400 whiskey, bourbons, and scotch. And so, I'm used to going to events like this, and especially for wine tastings where I'm having to knock out 1,000 wines in a day or two. So it's definitely game on. And the distilled spirit shows that I go at, it's a little difficult, to get through the room. So there was definitely a lot of palate management. I found myself, doing through the experience, as well as just, the physical toll on my body, trying to make sure that my notes at, the end of a 3-hour just are not complete gibberish, and I can't make sense of anything. But overall, what did you think of the festival, Julieanna?
I really enjoyed it. I like that they had it sectioned off, so that helped. It's not like things were all over the place. So that I knew to go to get my scotch out of the way first, so then I could cleanse my palate, and then go to the bourbons, and go to the whiskeys, and then come back around and get those second helpings and third helpings of things that I really enjoyed.
Yep, definitely. So the sponsor of this event, and this event was actually in Nashville, Tennessee. This was the second time that they had the Whiskey Festival here in Nashville. There are a couple other, distilled spirit shows that I've been to, Whiskey Fest, and there's another single malt, tasting that's in Vancouver that I would consider are on par maybe with this particular event that's available for the general public. There are some industry tastings that are not open to the public that are, probably the products that they serve, are different caliber, maybe in the way that they're presented and the amount of time you have is different as well. But the sponsor for this event was Midtown Wine and Spirits, and it's probably one of the top wine shops here in Middle Tennessee. Paul Patel is really a great proprietor. I've known Paul for a really long time, and I think that they did a wonderful job putting on a really great show here in Nashville. And so this was the second one. I look forward to hopefully talking about this 10 years from now and really seeing how this festival itself has has evolved, but the complexity of the products that I think that will be exposed to people here in the Southeast through this experience would increase as well. I can't think of a better place, right here in the heart of bourbon and whiskey distillers to showcase these products as well. And a lot of the people that were in the room, it was great to press the flesh with a lot of the people that are behind these products as well. And that's something that you don't always get when you go to a tasting that's in, the Northeast or Chicago, or even the thing, in Vancouver, that you're not even getting to meet a lot of the people behind these products as well. So that's really great.
Yeah, I mean, my hat's off, because there were so many owners and and reps from the companies that were extraordinarily knowledgeable about the product, which, I was so thankful for, because I had a lot of questions and all of them got answered.
Yeah. Well, Jason, I know a lot of those people were here in town, as well. I'm sure you got to, meet some friends as they were passing through town as well for this festival.
I did. It's actually been really great, because Nashville is becoming a really big hub for the spirit industry right now, with the music scene and the city growing at the pace that it is. The new and upcoming cities in the United States for spirits is really Nashville and Austin. And I think this whiskey festival really showcased what Nashville has to offer the spirit industry and the public when it comes to new products and really venturing out and trying new stuff.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And so, I think a lot of people would be really surprised at the quality and caliber, not only of the products, but of the talent of the people, behind a lot of these products as well. It's I'd like to think that this is it's been a very rich product base for a very long time, but I would consider it rather stoic and stagnant in terms of innovation up until the last 5 years. And I think that a lot of the products that we're going to get to talk about today, the barn door's open, as far as I'm concerned, and game on, and thinking that the only place that you can get really great, scotch is from Scotland. And that is not true. And both of you are shaking your heads like, oh my God, that is definitely not true anymore. And, the inverse is true as well, that I got to taste some products where whiskeys and bourbons are not made here in Tennessee and Kentucky through this as well. And so I guess the corner market on putting all these ingredients together is not unique geographically, although I would certainly say that the skill and base of a lot of the producers is certainly right here, bound in the Southeast itself. So definitely kudos to Midtown for putting on a really great festival, and it was really great to participate. So Julieanna, you got to go to the antique tasting, which was a separate event. So why don't you tell everybody kind of what this was about and a little bit about what you thought about that particular part?
This was quite the treat. So it was obviously put on by Midtown, and they brought in the lead chemist from Buffalo Trace to talk about a good degree of their repertoire of spirits. So what I really enjoyed about it was that we started off with the white docks. So you get to taste what comes out, when it's freshly mashed, so to speak, that white lightning, and in its roughest form, and then you step up to the Buffalo Trace single barrel. You go to the Eagle Rare 10, and you develop your palate as you're tasting each sample. To the point of the Eagle 17 and the Antique 5 that Buffalo Trace is known for. So I really enjoyed being able to go back to the mash, and having it in that early stage, and then seeing how it aged and how it developed and what flavors came out of it. And I was really impressed with what I had.
So what was your top pick, out of the evening that you walked away with going, wow, I can't believe that I got to taste that?
I know. And so, out of the Antique 5, which is the Thomas Handy Sazerac Rye, the George T. Stagg, the William LaRue Weller, the Eagle Rare 17, and then, of course, the Pappy 23, the Stagg and the Weller were just phenomenal tastings, and each in a different way. Like the Stag was very leathery and very chocolatey and very manly, but had a great dry finish to it. And then the William LaRue was very sweet and very warm and almost feminine for a bourbon. That may sound cheesy, but so I loved the yin and yang with both of them, and those are definitely two that I would seek out.
Jason, and you talked a little bit about, you thought these were the pillars of a lot of these products at the peak of quality. Absolutely.
I'm really proud that you chose those two. Those are two of my absolute favorites also. And you're starting to really see a lot more products come on the market that are very similar to that. Basically, there's two different types of, I would call high-end bourbon. And one would be, an older bourbon that's, at a lower proof. But then there is this just ultimate bourbon, in my opinion, which is the barrel cut or the barrel proof whiskey. And both of those that you chose are right out of the barrel. And I think that it's just amazing that we're getting back to the roots that is bourbon. Because you talk about whiskey that was made over 100 years ago here in this country. We didn't have the chill filtration process and the micron filters that we have today. So those products truthfully are, the frontier whiskey that, the people who founded this country were drinking. And I just think that keeping that tradition and, just being incredible whiskey today just shows you how great of a distillery Buffalo Trace is and how just amazing those products are.
So one of the things we talked about, Julieanna, was, you walk into that room and you're talking about, a price point that a lot of people, just not for your average audience, and one of the things that a lot of our listeners, and even we're faced with, when we walk into a liquor store is, of course, those things at eye level are catching you rather quick. But oh my, how fast those eyes tend to drift north and stare at those, bottles. And a lot of these products that are on the top shelf are frankly many times even behind the counter in a glass case.
I'm sure.
So I guess one of the things that we always talk about is it really worth the money? Is there great bang for buck? And what is the relationship of price point here with quality and a lot of the things that you tried there at the antique tasting?
Well, what I enjoyed too about Buffalo Trace was that even their flagship, their single barrel, mid price point, was yummy. I mean, and this is something that you can get for, I think the smallest bottle is like $23 or something like that. But it's a great bourbon just in itself. And it's a very complex bourbon for its age. And this is something that I noticed not only with Buffalo Trace, but with a lot of the other distillers that we were able to sample yesterday, is that time doesn't mean much anymore. I mean, yes, the 10s, the 17s, the 23s, there's something there's something about them that you want to go to, but now there are some new distillers out there that are getting that flavor and that complexity at a younger age, which is great. And even the Eagle 10-year was great, and that's at a reasonable price point and widely available that many people can try. So, that being said, of course, to me it is worth it. I'm going to go and seek out that stag and enjoy that stag. And I'm going to seek out the William LaRue Weller and savor it.
Let me bring it home. So I'm handing you a $500 check. What's something you're going to go back into that room and buy?
From Buffalo Trace specifically? Or just in general? Well, okay. I'm not going to buy the Pappy 23, which is shocking to many people out there, and I apologize to everyone, but that's not I enjoyed it, but that's not something I'm going to seek out. But I am going to go to the Highland Park Loki, and I am going to go to the Lafroig 25-year, and some of those that are $300, $400, $500. If I have that, I'm going to go get it because it is worth it sometimes. But what was great was that I was able to try a little bit beforehand to say to myself, "Yep, that's worth it," or "I don't get it."
Well, and I think that's what I like about this particular experience, especially for consumers, that you don't really always have that opportunity of going out and tasting a high-end product before you commit, to it. And that's really great that this particular experience allow, a base of consumers to sample something, in that price range, before you commit to it. But I think that when I tend to think about price influence about whiskey, it not quite the same thing, with some other products. I think that this is one of these areas. First off, I think the thing that influences price more than anything is supply and demand. If you don't have a lot of it, you want to charge a premium price for it.
Sure.
It's just that simple. But I do think that in this particular space, I think that they have the ability of controlling supply and demand a lot more than in some other products, like wines, where you're basically at the beckon of the harvest and how much yield you have to deal with. Where with these products, it's a matter of how long can you run things, how long can you store things. The blending characteristic that you're going after, for blended products, that how much time do you want to spend in, refining that, particular blend characteristic. So, I'll go far out to say, I think this is one of those areas where I think that spending more, there is a direct relationship of quality. Do I think it's an exponential leap? Like, going from a $100 bottle to a $300 bottle, are you doubling the quality? No, I wouldn't say that's the case. But at the end of the day, I think that there's space for all of those. So I'll tell you about this one conversation I had, and you and I were both, sitting at this table, and I went back to them later in the day. And I found myself, so at this table, I'll tell you what was, kind of on this table was a combination of Oban that was sitting at the table. There was Johnny Walker products that were there. There was a Dalwhinnie, Distiller's Edition that was there. There was a lot of, great products that were just kind of all sitting on this table together. And I said, you know what? You've represented my entire approach on serving whiskeys, to all, family members and everything else right here. So I'm like, first off, when my mother-in-law comes, she didn't drink whiskey, but if she did, I'd say, here you go. Here's the Johnny Walker, red label. It's something you would enjoy every day, and I would say we'll start right there, or maybe with just a friend that, they've never had any, at all, and going, let's try a, swig of this first.
Sure.
And then I'm like, okay, so now I got a couple of friends over that are, coming around, and I know that they've had a lot of bourbons or a lot of whiskeys. It's time to, drag other things out. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to reach down, to, the Johnny Walker Blue Label, or I'm going to go for that Oban, Distiller's Edition that's sitting there and going, yeah, I think you should try a dram of this, kind of quick. And, that may be all you have today. And of course, if it's my dad or, I think someone that would really appreciate it, sure, I'm going to reach for the Johnny Walker Platinum, or definitely the Oban, 18 year, and going, you can have that one dram and that's it of that, so I guess my point about, this discussion of price point is that I think there's room for all of these products, on your bar. And I think part of what you want to adjust, how you think about price is also the audience that you're going for as well. Jason, I know you probably thought a lot about, relationship of price and product, and especially with your own product, Cumberland Cask, and thinking, I don't want to produce a product that is unapproachable and everybody has to pay $200 a bottle for it.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, the price of whiskey was one of the main things that got me wanting to get on the producer side. And I've always been a bourbon drinker. And, we said earlier, my favorite whiskey is the uncut, unfiltered barrel-proof whiskey. And I was truthfully just tired of paying $80 and up. I mean, some of these bottles can go up to $300+. And so I really wanted to try to get a price point that the average consumer could really afford. So that's really what got me started with the Cumberland Cask label, was finding a barrel-proof whiskey that really could break underneath the $50 price point. And I'm proud that we got to $40, which I thought is a really good price point.
Well, when you walked into, even pricing your own product, what influenced, picking a price point? Was it that you were going after an audience, or you were looking at the relationship, the quality, and saying, I'd pay $40 for that, or, well, I mean, I'm curious a little bit about, I'm sure it was a more exhaustive process than I'm leading on here, but, kind of in one or two sentences, what chose you to pick the price for your particular product?
Honestly, just being able to hit a wide audience. Most distillers work, they take all the price of their goods and their glass and the boxes and the whiskey and the taxes, and then they add their percentage, which usually is a very high percentage, and come up with the price. I decided to go with a different approach. I had a price in mind. I wanted to hit $30 for my 80 proof, and I wanted to hit $40 for my 120 proof, and I worked backwards. So as my glass got more expensive and the labeling process got more expensive, I made less money, but that's the price I wanted to be at, and it didn't matter how much I was going to make.
That's an interesting way. Well, I guess one of the other things that you noticed in the room, Julieanna, was it was really lopsided gender-wise, wasn't it?
It was, and I was proud to be on that lower end, because people, every table that I went up to and every question that I asked, the distillers or the representatives of the labels were amazed that I had these questions and that I had this taste profile in mind. And one of the words that kept coming at me was, wow, you have a great palate. Wow, you have a great palate. And I'm thinking, well, this is just what I enjoy myself. Anyone who is interested in trying a bourbon, they got a flavor profile that they like. Maybe it's a certain style of a drink that they like, so they want to go with a bourbon with those flavors or whatever. Anyone, I believe anyone can get into bourbon or whiskey in general. It's just a matter of finding what you enjoy. And now, like you said, the barnyard is wide open because there are so many new flavors out there. There are so many different styles And so many experiments that are going on with, companies like Buffalo Trace, that it is not your grandfather's whiskey or bourbon anymore. But then getting back to the basics, I'm a big fan of uncut, non-filtered. I mean, it blew me away at how flavorful and complex it was. And it makes me want to sip and enjoy and not down it, like a beer, or mix it with, God forbid, ginger ale or soda. I don't get how people do that. But again, everyone's taste is different. These things I want to savor. I want to enjoy. I mean, now when I come home from work, I'm either grabbing one of my home brews, since I am a home brewer, or grabbing like one of these and just sipping and enjoying. And this is like my meditation, and I enjoy it so much. And now I got a list of more whiskeys to buy.
Well, I definitely want to get to that. I am so glad that you got to go to the antique tasting and share with everybody what that experience was about. Well, I can't wait to get to our discussion about what was at the grand tasting, with 400 plus whiskeys. But why don't we take a quick breather here for just a second, let everybody enjoy a little bit of this bluegrass music, and we'll definitely go through our top 3 out of the festival.
For 6 long years I've been in trouble. No pleasure here on earth I find. Far in this world I'm bound to ramble. I have no friend to help me now.
So welcome back, and we definitely want to talk about what was at the grand tasting event itself. Again, almost 400 products at the festival to go through, and an awful lot of things to talk about. So what Julieanna and I are going to do is go through our top 3 products. We're going to rate them according to our SIPS ratings. And we have some other thoughts about some other products outside the top 3 that we wanted to share with you as well. So, Julieanna, what were your top 3?
Well, I know we share one of them. The Angel's Envy Rye.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot say enough about that. My tasting notes.
I've never seen a man swoon quite like that, Jason.
I know, that
the
was,
way Jason
that
did
was
that.
nice.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about, baby.
That is definitely one of my favorite whiskeys of this year, for sure.
What a beautiful expression. My tasting notes just said, "Yummo, I'm in Barbados." The fact that it has just been in that second barrel for 6 to 9 months blows me away. And as we were talking about before about the innovation of distillers now and being able to draw out these flavors in such a short time, this is stunning. People find it, drink it, enjoy it, because it is beautiful.
Well, and I think one of the sad notes here, on this, and I'll talk a little bit about the same product in a bit, is Lincoln Henderson was the distiller of this product, and unfortunately recently passed away. Mm-hmm. And I know that you actually knew the man personally, didn't you, Jason?
I did. I went to dinner with him a couple times, and he was here in Nashville, and we took him around to a bunch of stores to meet customers and consumers.
Well, it's always sad, when something like this happens. But man, if I want to go out producing a really great product like this, that I think generations will be able to enjoy. And I can't think of a finer legacy than for people to enjoy this product. So you had some other things. What's your sips rating then on the Angel's Envy?
That is a beautiful 5.
Oh, wow. She's going to go right off the bat. Oh, my. I was unaware anything could be this good. So what else is up in your top 3 here?
Well, me being a Scotch lover, I do not deny that. The Highland Park Loki, to me, was just stunning, because it was very playful in my mouth. I know that sounds weird, but usually with Highland you get this smokiness up front, and then you get this sweetness and the peatiness. Well, this was completely different. I mean, it smelled floral and honey, and instead of smoky, and then it gets on your tongue and it's sweet and peaty, and then the smoke is at the end. And I don't know how they did it, but it's really quite stunning and worth the wait.
So what's your sips rating on this then?
That one I'm giving a 4.
A 4? Let's keep the secret to ourselves. Pour me another. And I'll share some of my rating notes, as we go through some of these as well, because I know you're curious. So I did taste the Highland Park Loki alongside some of the other Highland Parks, and it was, so the other product that was alongside this table was Macallan, which is one of my favorite, scotches. I like the Loki. I guess when I think about Highland Scotch, I really think of it as a gateway Scotch. There's one Scotch that is my go-to Scotch when somebody is coming to my house and they're going, wow. And you were there. I mean, you're looking up the collection. You're like, it's usually I drag the Highlands, out rather quickly, because I know that if I hand some very peaty, product up front, it's going to just take their, palate in a way that it really catch them off guard. So I think part of what missed the mark for me here is that I thought that there was too much peat and too much smoke present for me, was one of the things that I thought about the Loki. I didn't think that it was hitting what I consider in the Highland profile as having a bit of those aspects muted. So thinking about this in the traditional Highland style, it kind of missed the mark for me. But I still thought it was a great product. My sips rating on the Highland Park Loki is going to be a 3. Interesting. What was that again?
Well, and that's why, your flavor profile and mine are completely opposite.
That's why we liked going together to this event, because I enjoyed seeing your reaction, and likewise, we were responding, and you were like, man, that sucks. And I'm like, I really love that. So.
I know, that was, but again, the barn door is open because there are so many different flavors coming out. And for me, I enjoy that Highland took this chance and went a little peatier with it.
I think the thing I'm shocked is that you didn't go straight to Scotland right off the bat here. You actually stayed in the U.S., to pick a bourbon right off the bat. So yeah. I thought that was an interesting way. I don't think you did that intentionally, It just happened. It just happened that way.
It happened. But the Angel's Envy is just the most memorable to me. I'm still, smelling it and tasting it. And he
swoons again.
Exactly. Wow. Okay, ladies, all you got to do is say Angel's Envy.
So what else is on your list here?
My last one, which is going to be a shocker to you, and believe me, it was a shocker to me, is the Black Maple Hill Bourbon from Heaven Hill. And who would have thought? Because I'm not, necessarily a big Heaven Hill lover, but this one was very approachable and very sweet.
So what's your sips rating on that?
This one I'm giving a 4.
A 4? For the Black Maple Hill Bourbon. So I tried this as well, and again, I think part of what is influencing some of my thought process about this was what else was at the table, because you're right there and tasting them side by side, and the other product that was there was the Templeton Rye, and trying a rye bourbon, like that, right alongside this. I'm not so sure that I should have just taken a walk and a cracker or something to cleanse my palate. I didn't particularly like the Black Maple Hill Bourbon. And in fact, it just missed the mark, completely for me. And it was not a product that I would have come back to itself. And again, I think maybe what it might have influenced my thought process was it was sitting right beside, the Templeton Rye. So I want to give myself a bit of grace, thinking, well, maybe I really didn't taste the product like I should have, and giving it a break. But anyway, my sips rating for this is actually 1.
Wow.
Yeah, give me a glass of water to wash out my mouth.
I know.
Now, I guess one of the stories that I overheard part of last night was apparently there was a problem with the distillery at Heaven Hill. They lost their distillery, or they had to move it around. There was a fire or something like that. Mm-hmm. Jason, you know any of the history around what happened here?
Yeah, there was just a large fire, and fires and distilleries do not mix very well. Barrels are pretty combustible, but pretty much almost, I mean, you'd have to check my facts, but I'm pretty sure almost every large distillery in the United States is caught on fire at one point or another, which is why they usually have their own fire department at the distillery.
Yeah.
So, any idea if they made this product before or after the fire? I'm going to believe it's before, because I think this happened fairly recently, like 2 years ago or something. And I can't believe that this product has, been aged less than 2 years for sure. There's just no way.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not for you to rate it a 4.
I enjoyed it though.
I know. I'm glad you.
I think I had it before the rye. That was the difference. You had it after the rye.
You were tasting left to right, and I was tasting right to left.
Exactly.
So there you have it.
Exactly.
Well, I can tell you the Black Maple Hill can definitely differ in age. They've had different colors on the front label of the bottle, and they've gone all the way up to 16-year-old, and I think there were even some that broke into the 20s. But like we were talking about before the taping, the product is most assumed to be made at Heaven Hill, but it is coming out of the Willett Distillery, which is one of those barrel buyers who just started cooking whiskey themselves this past year. But because it is a product that they're purchasing barrels over 20, 30 years, the whiskey can really change. So I've got a couple bottles at my house of that, and they taste completely different. So, it's just really interesting that you gave this such a high rating and you such a poor rating, but, another bottle, if y'all were to both crack it, I really do think that maybe the roles could be reversed, and
sure.
You guys could really differ and you could really like it.
Game on.
Yeah.
And I think that could be a very common... I can see that happening with a lot of products, that we tried at the festival. All right. So I wanted to go through my top 3. So I'll actually swing back and start with the Angel Envy Rye as well. And so there's 2 products Angel Envy puts out. There's a traditional bourbon that they put out, and then there's the rye product as well. We both walked away with the rye was the better of the 2 products. I like them both. In fact, I rated them both the same, but if I had to come back and talk about one, it was definitely the rye. Definitely left me with, that is something quite special, and definitely caught my attention. See, I told you I'd come back around. So the story behind this was I first tasted this product at a wine tasting, of all things. I was in this room with like 500 wines, and there was a good friend that worked at the distillery. She's a great brewer, and they were having a tasting of Angel's Envy. This was probably maybe the first month it was available, and I remember trying it, and my first impression was, oh my God, that is so hot. There is no way on the free planet that I'm going to enjoy that. And I shared this with Jason the other day as we were chatting, and his reaction was, are you sure you're talking about the same product? So as we walked into the tasting last night, I didn't get to taste everything, obviously, in the room. It's way too much. But I was still okay to go back and taste things that I've had before. And this is one of the things that I went back and tried once again. And I'm not so sure that even that I had the rye that first time around. I think it was just the bourbon. that I had that first time around. But my tasting notes on this were, I thought it had a very sweet start to it and an incredibly smooth finish. And I just, I think the thing I just kept sitting there, it was just what a shame it is for the world to lose Lincoln. Wow, I couldn't help but have some measure of compassion for his family as well as for, the distillery itself. I really thought it was a fabulous product. This is one of the, definitely the better of the two products. My SIPS rating for Angel's Envy Rye is going to be 4.
That's classified.
Let's keep this secret to ourselves. Pour me another. And I found myself saying that exact same thing before we left the table, didn't I? Mm-hmm. Which was, yeah, I think I'll have another taste of that. And I did not do that all night with a lot of things. But I would say almost everything here on my top 3 list, I found myself going back to it as well. Well, definitely the one product that I can't rave enough about is going to be the St. George Single Malt. I wrote down real potential to be even more than what it is right now. It's just one of those products that I loved what it was, but I'm like, wow, I just can't imagine what this is going to be like, 5 years from now. I am a huge fan of their gin products. And I had already enjoyed a lot of the artistry that they were bringing to the distilled spirits market already, with their gin products. And I don't know what the order was, if they made the whiskey first, and because, there were aging characteristics, they made that for 3 years, and then they decided they're like, well, the still's just sitting there. Let's make some gin while we're at it. I'm not really quite sure what the thought process was, and I'm sure that I'll figure it out. But I was just really quite impressed with the quality that this product really, brought to the table. Other tasting notes I had were, I just thought it was incredibly well balanced, and it had a sweet, smoky quality about it. I not only had one taste of this, not two. When I went back at the end of the evening as we were walking out, the bottle was empty. And that is definitely a telltale sign to me to say that rocked the house. Yeah. If you could empty a bottle in that room, it was because people were coming back to it and really enjoyed it. I believe that they had I think it was a distiller's version of this, or that was in small quantity. I want to say the name of it was XXX. And definitely, if you can find it, buy it. I think there were like only 800 bottles of that particular product that were produced. You might just happen to see that on a shelf, and you'll go, good old boy Mike said, if I see that on a shelf, buy it, because you should. Because I think that it is quite worthy. And definitely just to the single malt, just sitting there, I would encourage you to snap that up and definitely try that product out as well. I am looking forward to another great product that St. George is coming out, and I thought it was definitely something that I just sat there and thought about it for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, wow. So they're going to make a gin that they are planning to age in a Grenache cask. So, your first reaction could be a lot of different things. You and I had the same reaction, which was, wow, okay.
Sign me up.
Yeah. I haven't heard of that one before. I tend to think, of a lot of the really great gins that I enjoy are botanical. Generally, there are a couple of other gins that are English dry gins that I really enjoy as well. And they make a terroir version of their gin that I think is very different at St. George as well. This is something I can't wait to try. He told me it has kind of a pink hue, which I would imagine since it's a Grenache barrel. And then I was wondering who's Grenache? Is it like is it a California Grenache? Is it a Spanish Grenache, or is it a Italian Grenache? I really got to thinking a lot about that, and had a great discussion with Allison over at Bren, about that, thinking it would have been something that she would have produced. If I hadn't have thought any better, she was the one that gave me the idea, for all I know. But wow, I can't say enough good things about the St. George single malt. So definitely, those are a couple out of my top 3 so far. The last one in my top 3 list is going to be Lafroig, the 25 year. And, of course, I'm going to pick a Scotch, in the discussion here that is definitely worthy of discussion. Now, I'll confess, this is not a Scotch on my shelf. And I've tasted Lafroig, off and on for probably, well over 8 years or longer. And not something that has found its way, into my personal collection. But last night, this one, for whatever reason, just really caught my attention. Part of it may have been that we tasted this early on in the evening, and it could have been a little bit of some palate conditioning, as the evening wore on. My tasting notes around the Lafroig 25 year was very deep and peaty. And I'm always a fan of just this layering effect, of flavors. But this had something about it that I've never said about any tasting note. It was like somebody putting my tongue in a sleeping bag of peaty, smoky peaty, it was just that enveloping element, on my tongue. I've just never had anything like that. It was like somebody giving my tongue, a nice peaty hug.
Yeah.
And I just had not had anything that was quite like that before. So it definitely left a standing impression on me. My sips rating for the Lafroig 25 is going to be 4. Let's keep the secret to ourselves. Pour me another. And I did go back for another taste of that to definitely make sure that I had my thoughts around it.
And if I may interject for a minute, I am a big Lafroig fan. Love, love, love. I even have a little plot of land over there that I'm going to visit in a couple years and put my little stamp on it until it gets mowed, but whatever. So yes, I'm a huge fan. And funny thing is I went to Midtown in the afternoon to pick up some things before the festival, and I saw it there on the shelf, and it's new to us. And I thought, I wonder if it's worth it. I wonder, because it's a little pricey. And then I had it. And, it is in my top 5 as well. It is so beautiful and so smooth. And, yeah, it is like the deep Black Sea, but in such an amazing way.
Well, I think that I saw you in a bit of a quick shuffle over to that table. And I was like, well, what's over here? So I'm really happy that... I think that might find its way back into my personal collection to add. So I really thought it was great.
Yeah.
Jason, any reaction to our top 3? Are you shocked, or you think that our palates are kind of right in the wheelhouse here of some really great products?
Well, you can definitely tell the difference in your 2 palates. But me personally, I'm more of a American bourbon guy, and that's what I drink and that's what I love. I can definitely appreciate a good Scotch. Lafroig's not necessarily in my palate. I don't necessarily like a really smoky peaty whiskey.
There's a little bit of hope for you just yet. Why don't you come on down and sit with the boys here and have a bit of a dram, and we're going to be talking about the old times, and you American boys of the whiskey, you're just now getting around to it. It's a couple of 100 years, eh? It's a good start.
But I think it's great that you have a artisanal distillery on your list, and I think it's incredible that y'all both picked the Angel's Envy Rye as a top contender, considering it's a brand new product, a brand new idea of aging American whiskey in these rum casks and port casks, and you mentioned about the wine cask with the St. George, and I think it's very interesting. Your lists are pretty impressive.
Well, there were a lot of other great things in the room, and while we're not going to have enough time here to go through and rate them, I definitely mentioned some things that I thought had some honorable mention.
Yeah, sure.
And we both were, I thought there were a lot of things on my honorable mention list. This is not in any particular order, but the Crown XR, and the one comment I had about this was, this is not your typical Crown. And in fact, even describing this as Crown, I almost thought that it was hurting the brand or hurting the product that we tasted. Call it like, Super Duper XR or, whiskey, awesome, XR or something. It was really good. And, a lot of people drink Crown, and I think that if you want to step it up, you should definitely check out the XR product. The other one, which was actually at the table right next to this, was the Oban 18-year. And I like the discussion you and I had at that table. And I think we tasted that right at the same time, which was, I think the good mark of a really great Scotch to me is when I look down and half the bottle is gone, and I'm wondering what happened. And, I said that I think we had both the same reaction to the Oban 18-year, which was, oh my God, I could drink this all day long.
Yeah.
And it was just... I use the word chuggable, and I don't say the word chuggable in Scotch ever, and that just was a really great product, and it didn't make my top 3, but yeah, definitely worth mentioning. The Corsair Triple Smoke, and of course we're going to come back and talk about a product that we picked as our whiskey of the year last year, and a couple of the other really great products that we've reviewed on the show were there in the room, and even though I didn't put them at the top, they were definitely worthy of discussion. The Balcones Single Malt was in the room, and I was standing at the table, and if you had thought I was repping the product for a minute and telling everybody that is the very best Scotch that is made in the USA. I cannot say that enough. Chip, I don't know what you're doing out there on the back 40 in Waco, but keep doing it, man, because I just it was really showing well in the room last night, and I was watching people react at the table, and I could tell it was just really ringing a lot of the bells, once again about that. Of course, I'm going to come back and talk about some stalwart, bellwether products, and the Four Roses Single Barrel I thought was showing very well, last night. There were a couple other Four Roses products that are available that are probably a little bit better than this that were not available at the tasting last night. So I found myself tasting the Single Barrel, and I really thought it was great. A lot of people love Four Roses, and I think of all the Four Roses product, this is the one that I would come swing back to once again. Or some of the other honorable mentions for you.
For me, I enjoyed the Lagavulin Distillers Edition. Again, I know, peaty smoky, that's me. The Tullamore Phoenix interested me because I'm not a Tullamore fan. The only Irish whiskeys that I tend to go with is a John L. Sullivan. Love him. Not him personally, but him in general. And I'm not a fan of Tullamore. And I had a lot of it when I was in Ireland, and I tried to enjoy it, but I just couldn't. But this was neat, I think, because it's not traditional Tullamore. It's very complex. And whereas I think of the Tullamore is kind of on the weak side, this one impressed me. The Hudson Baby Bourbon, for whatever reason, I didn't.
Interesting.
I know, because I didn't like it before, but last night, maybe it was the luck of when I tasted it at that time, but I really dug it. At
the same table as the St. George, as well. They were both New York exactly. Distillers that were, they're right, side by side, and I know. I didn't particularly care for the Hudson products, but interesting is on your honorable mention list.
It is.
Maybe you were tasting right to left instead of left to right.
Yeah, probably. The St. George's, they're great. In fact, the Breaking and Entering bourbon, I really enjoyed. As well as the single malt. The Balcones table, God, everything there was just phenomenal.
That was the first time I tasted Baby Blue last night. And
oh, really?
It was, yeah. As much as I've enjoyed a lot of great products from Balcones, that was the first time I had tasted that. Probably not my favorite, in the lineup. I can see where that kind of fit, in their overall product line. They did not have any of the rumbles there, last night. And I always found that a difficult product to talk about and categorize. I don't call it a whiskey. I don't call it a rum. It's it's definitely a distilled product. There's some blending characteristics about the rumbles itself. So I think that would have been tough to compare, like for like, orange for orange, or apples for apples if the rumbles had been there at the table. So I don't know if that was accidental or if that was intentional, but all I know is, man, that single malt scotch was flying, down. I mean, I remember there were, the bottles that they had like, 3 bottles of each, and the one there was only like one more bottle left of the single malt. The other, man, plenty of the other products, they're from Balcones. So.
Well, I think the people that were there had very interesting tastes. There's a few people that I knew that I didn't know were coming, and, ended up chatting and reminiscing and, talking about what our likes and dislikes were. And they all were talking about that one. And how they are not Scotch lovers by any stretch, but they kept coming back for that. So there's hope. There's hope for Scotch lovers out there, or Scotch non-lovers. There's hope for you that you'll get into it. I also, and you may not like this, but Bren is so approachable to a novice that it's sweet and it tastes like it should be aged more than what it is. And I mean, it's a very interesting whiskey that is approachable, I think, sadly, to a lot of women who may be scared of getting into a bourbon or a whiskey. And there's something to be said for that. And obviously it's doing well because it keeps flying off the shelves here. So somebody's digging it. And
Allison's doing a great job of, I think, positioning that product. And I think being very careful to say, this is not more of the same.
Right.
And I think educating the marketplace, as people are enjoying it as well, going, hey, this is not bourbon.
Right.
This is not your Kentucky bourbon.
Right.
This is definitely a French oaked, product, and it's going to be different.
Right.
So.
And I think just people that have been closed minded about bourbons and whiskeys, this is definitely a departure.
Why can't you use wood? It's in the back.
Right.
Anything else on your honorable mention list?
I think that's about it.
So there were a couple of shockers I wanted to talk about, really quick, and definitely the one that caught my attention was the Japanese whiskeys, and so I think one of the things that I've noticed is that you have all of a sudden we talk a lot about Balcones today. So you have a Scotch made right here in the U.S. that is definitely taking, the Scots to the woodshed, so to speak, or the peat farm, and really showing them to say, hey, I can make a better product than you with American water and, American products, And this was a case where the Japanese have said, I don't understand why geography is bound to say, we can't make really good whiskey here in Japan as well. I mean, the first question I asked, and of course the person at the table had no idea, which was, where are you getting the barley, and where are you getting the grains for this? Because I'm sorry, but they're all rice fields,
Right.
And in Japan, I don't even know the water, would even have some of the same mineral components, in Japan. So I was like, are you making this here and private labeling it as Japanese, or what's going on? And they were actually making this stuff in Japan. And, if you had just asked me straight up, I'll ask Jason this. Jason, what would you think of Japanese whiskey,
Well, it's funny you say that. I'm not much of a Scotch drinker, but I will say the Suntory, the Yamazaki 12-year-old, I really do enjoy. I've got a bottle at home. I've also got a bottle of the Hibiki. And I'll tell you what got me started in it was really Lincoln Henderson. He's the one who went over to Japan to teach them how to make whiskey.
I knew there was a story.
Yeah, absolutely. And he told me I needed to try it, and I tried it, and I really, really like it, and I think it's incredible. I mean, we're starting to see single malt whiskey out of Japan. I tried a Tasmanian single malt whiskey recently. There's a new one from New Zealand. I mean, the whiskey is really getting legs and going around the world, and I think it's going to be really interesting. The the spirit industry is becoming very much like the beer industry, in which, you know, everybody drank domestic products for the longest time, and now the imports are starting to make it here, and the craft distilleries are starting to make it here. So I think it's great for the industry. It's gonna, the really good products are gonna survive, and the bad ones are just gonna teeter away.
Yeah.
Well, those were, you know, the products that they had there, you know, last night that you mentioned, and you know, I would just flat out say I would have said that you know, they would have sucked, you know, flat out. And I mean, that would have been my general reaction about the thought of Japanese whiskey. And I walked away with some renewed spirit about that. And so I would definitely not say that about those products. I thought they were very good. And it was tough to stand up in the room that we were in, but you know, there's some poor experiments that I thought were going on as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, so not in any particular order. I'm going to bash a neighbor in New Hampshire. Do not combine maple syrup with anything. So there was a maple syrup bourbon, and I'm sure there's a spot for it, much like, you know, some of the other innovative products we talked about. I didn't, you know, just please don't do that anymore. You know, I thought it deserved to be used as a pancake syrup, you know, as a hair on the dog. I thought it was the best marketing concept that could have been used for that product. So, you know, the couple of products where there were hops that were being infused, I won't mention who was doing that, but I wish they'd stop. That would definitely, it's not what I would consider a lovely combination of things going on. And, you know, it was great. I'm glad that I had that experience, but please, God, don't make any more. And there were way too many hot bourbons and whiskeys. And what a tragedy in this day and age, you know, that I think people have the ability of understanding how to make a really good quality product, and I really found that the bubble in the middle of a lot of things that I was like, oh my God, this has burned everything out. You know, I couldn't even get past all the alcohol to taste whatever you had there. Mm-hmm. You know, it was just you know, there were definitely a lot of things where I was just like, please go away, figure out what you've done wrong, and come back. You know, there were just a lot of things that were in that category for me. What was one of the other experiments that you thought were just like, please stop doing that?
There was a 21-year scotch that I had that, oh God, it was just so medicinal and so bad. And I took a sip and I thought, okay, maybe I need to cleanse my palate, because I was expecting great things from this particular brand. Mm-hmm. And it just was awful. And the lady, you know, said to me, are you okay? And I said, no, I'm so disappointed. Like, I just flatly said out, I'm really disappointed. And she looked at me and I'm like, have you had some of this bottle? And she's like, well, no, I haven't. And so then I made her sniff and try what I was tasting. And I said, is it just me? And she kind of had that, no, you're right. I mean, that was a strange moment. But, you know, getting back to the hoppy whiskeys, okay, I'm a home brewer. I enjoy hops. Sorry. But this, it just I'm sorry, it
Please
just does not
stop.
go. It does not go.
No.
Really bad.
Yeah.
You know, or at least maybe try a subtle hop if you're going to go hop.
I know. I was like, did you put Simcoe in this? No. We went with Citra or something right on the
I
back.
know.
I'm like, oh gosh.
I know. Do not try to make an IPA out of this, please.
That was it. Yeah. IPA whiskey.
Yeah. And as much as I like maple syrup, because I am known for my maple bacon porter beer, no.
Well, the crowd that I thought was that had gathered was around the White Lightning, you know, section of the festival, and I definitely had some commentary to offer up, and I'd certainly love to know how you guys think about it. So I'm sorry, but White Lightning is not making a comeback anytime soon. It is just going mainstream. I think that it's just simply a product that has moved from the bottom of the shelf to the middle of the shelf. And I'm sorry, but there's not some major moment here where there's a huge difference. Do I think that there are definitely some, white lightning products that are maybe a little bit better than others? Sure, and I'm sure that, you'll enjoy those products and maybe about an ounce or two of them and you'll go, oh my God, where's the Gatorade I need to combine with this because,
true.
or Kool-Aid.
True.
And, I don't get it. I'm sorry, but I'm over in the Scotch corner going, yo, these guys have been figuring this out for the last, 500 years. I'm going to trust, some of what's been going on here. I don't know what's going on over in that corner and why, you think that is some measure of innovation, because I'm sorry, I don't get it. I don't even know why, some distillers are choosing to distribute, their raw, their pure grain product. In particular, there's this one head-scratching moment I have where Jack is putting out, their straight rye, and I'm going, are you diluting your product's brand in a way like that? Because call it something different. I don't really care, but don't say that is Jack Daniels, because I'm sorry if you are not completing what I consider the entire process. I don't get it. So. I don't know. What do you think about that? White lightning in the marketplace, Jason?
It's definitely interesting. I mean, the whole craze started from TV shows. I mean, we all know that. There were definitely some white lightning products on the market before that, but the TV shows is what really got it popular. There are definitely really, really bad ones. There are definitely better ones. I think mostly in that category, staying local is the trend. Just kind of like, with beer, it's very local. There's a local one here in Tennessee that I actually do enjoy. It's called Short Mountain, and I really like those guys. They're really,
love those guys.
They're really, really trying to provide the market with a real life moonshine. But the category's gotten so confusing. White whiskey, white lightning, moonshine, what's the difference here and there, and, I'll say with most of the white whiskey that's out there right now that's not calling themselves moonshine, I mean, in my personal opinion, and, people are going to differ with me, but it's the distillery trying to put out a product while their whiskey's aging so they can keep making money and pay for that whiskey that's aging. I mean,
there you go.
And truthfully, I don't know who in the world is buying the bottles and taking them home and drinking them, because, I've tried them and, they just aren't that great to me. But, the moonshine, the guys who are making the spirit with sugar, the way that it was done in the backwoods, in the country during Prohibition and before Prohibition, moonshine is definitely a native spirit to the United States. And the sugar recipe moonshines are, some of them are truthfully just fantastic and, really good sipping moonshine. And, you infuse them with tea and you infuse them with, local fruit and berries and stuff like that. And you really can have something that's really interesting and really good to have out there on like a hot summer day on ice and something like that. It's just, it's a different category, but I'll tell you, it is just amazed everybody in the industry how this category is just blown up. I mean, it is wild.
Julieanna, you're a White Lightning fan?
Coconuts? Really? Coconuts? I mean, I had to try it for the novelty.
Come on down to the islands, man. It has some White Lightning with a bit of coconut there.
Yeah, because that goes over so well. I mean, apple pie.
No rum, man. It's a White Lightning moment.
The apple pie I get, the cherry I get, the lemon drop. Really? Just give me lemon drop vodka then. I don't get it.
Maybe if you put a pink bow on it, it'll taste better.
So I'm just confused about that and why. And the price point blows me away.
Oh my goodness!
The power of marketing. I think Jason completely hit it on the head. For me, which was you really have to look at this as a reaction of mass media. In almost. moving White Lightning products into a point of fanatization, about what it is. I've had some really great moonshine in my lifetime. I really have, and it's very difficult for me to think about a lot of the commercial products that are on par with some of the things that I've had, over my lifetime, in that space as well. I almost want to say it's an insult, to some really hardworking people,
Exactly,
that are,
definitely.
in that industry for what's going on.
Totally. And the guy in the overalls with the beard,
We're not
hanging out like a celebrity.
We're not going to mention any names.
No, but I'm just like, yeah, you're ruining it for the guys that have been doing this for generations and generations. And, of the old school way that it should be done. And no coconuts, please.
And I just want to know where they're picking up all these guys with the overalls and the beards. It seems like every distillery's got one now.
Exactly. They're crawling out of the woodwork.
Are they sending a truck down to the backwoods of Tennessee and just loading them in?
It's a casting call down in Pulaski. There's 400 guys. I'm here for the casting call. You want to hear my favorite hog call?
Yeah.
Well, I can definitely hear the bluegrass music picking up, and we're way over our scheduled time for today. And I really enjoyed our discussion. What a great festival! And I'm really looking forward to the next whiskey festival here in Nashville. I really hope that Midtown definitely has the ability of continuing to put this on. I think it'd be really great. Jason, I look forward to seeing your products at not only a local retailer, but hopefully a good festival pretty soon as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure.
Good old gal Julieanna, thank you for going with me and being my wing woman for the festival as well. But most of all, thanks for joining today.
No worries, my pleasure.
I'm going to ask our audience to definitely take a moment, rate our episode on iTunes or on Spreaker. If you haven't checked out our Facebook site, definitely do that. A lot of great information. We'll probably post some more of our tasting notes from the festival as well that you'll get to enjoy that we didn't get to talk about during this episode today. Most of all, I'm going to ask you to join us once again and keep on sipping.
This has been a One Tan Hand production of Sips, Suds, and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see you all next time.